Another week where we thought we had nothing to talk about, and then somehow we fill out a little rundown for everybody who doesn't know. Like, it sounds like we're so fluid and awesome with this podcast, and it's just a conversation, but we actually have a list. And go back a couple days, nothing was on the list. But now we got a pretty good
magically,
list.
ta-da.
Yeah. All of a sudden, and I read through everything, and it all looks like there was a lot of stuff that went on this week that was not, thank goodness, political. Maybe. Was one of the items political?
Well, it involves Tesla, so.
Well, then it must be. Well, okay, that was the one, the BYD one. We'll get to that. I'm excited to get to the BYD article.
Right.
News. I'm Phil Royle, one of the co-hosts here, and whatever we are at the What Car. And instead of explaining what I've done throughout the years, which, because I'm a spry, what am I, 20 something years old? I've got a bit of experience, but I also have experience selling t-shirts at thewhatcar.com/store, where I haven't taken that down yet. I keep threatening to do that. And I also have experience getting this next URL incorrect, which youtube.com/@thewhatcar. If you're listening to us now, go there. That is now, YouTube has somehow become like the dominant force in podcasting. And I don't understand how that happened. It was iTunes. Yes, it was iTunes for years.
Yeah.
And now Google Podcasts is like, they swapped everything over from the Google Podcast app, whatever it was, and they went to YouTube Music.
Yeah.
And that was like, boom. Like, Google's the leader now in podcasting, and I keep directing people over there. I'll shut up now.
Ed Sanchez, 15 plus years in automotive content creation and moderation. Current day job, automotive electronics industry analyst, and the What Car co-founder and contributor.
I nearly spit my water out when you said 15 years. I think we started with 20 plus years when we started this podcast. Now I don't even say
Since
how
I'm
much experience
inching
I've
up
got.
to
You've
the
downgraded.
Well, I'm getting uncomfortably close to the half-century mark, so I'm going to burnish my youth credentials as much as possible.
Okay, I saw today a couple Cadillac EVs.
Okay.
I'm seeing them like all over the place.
I'm guessing Lyric mode.
Saw a couple Lyrics and a couple Escalade X that are, fill in my suburbia neighborhood.
Yeah.
And now the Optiq, that's the small one, isn't it? I don't think are those out?
It's a size below the Lyrics.
So is it Model Y small? A little bit bigger.
Maybe a little bigger.
So we've got all right. So they're now doing a V version of that. Is the Optiq out?
I couldn't tell you honestly.
Yeah, I couldn't either. I don't know. We'll go through this, then I got my thoughts about Cadillac in a second. But the Optiq-V SUV is launching. 519 horsepower, 650 pound-feet of torque, which is a lot. Now, I guess the previous version, I don't remember what the horsepower was on that, but it was 0 to 60 in like 5.5 seconds, which I go on this rant every single time. You're buying an SUV, that's fine. 3.5 seconds 0 to 60 is borderline irresponsible for if you've got kids.
We've said this a million times, but when the Ferrari F40 was sub 4 second, that was like mind blowing.
Yeah. No, like Trans Ams in the late 90s, early 2000s were like 5.2 seconds. And you're like, whoa. And then there was like a BMW, I think the M5 or whatever, that managed to sneak into like 4.5 second territory. And you're like, that's crazy. And now SUV is 3.5 seconds, like nothing.
Yeah.
Like you just get 3.5 second SUVs in Cracker Jack boxes, if they even have those anymore. So what else is there to know about this car?
So yeah.
Or did I just give it all away?
That's most of it. Same battery pack size as the standard model, which I believe is like 85 or 86 kilowatt hours.
Yep. That's what I read.
So that takes a little haircut on the range. So 275 miles, that's 25 miles less than the standard model, which is 300 horsepower and 300 mile range. Starting price $68,795. It is a Cadillac, so. And I just read, I guess the top of the line Tacoma is around $70,000 now. So I guess 70 grand back in the day would have been like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Now it's
speaking
like,
of
eh,
back in the day, so Cadillac, I for the longest time was like, maybe many people were like this. What's Cadillac doing? Why
yeah,
are they still around? That's a dead brand.
yeah.
It's like it's horrible. It's not. It brings nothing to the table. It's not a
Hmm.
BMW. It's
Hmm.
not a Mercedes. It's nothing. Like,
Hmm.
just get rid of it. They
Hmm.
they had basically a stranded asset. There was nothing compelling. They'd have like one vehicle that might get your attention, and
So
that was
just
it.
make GM Chevy, period.
Yeah, so that was kind of my opinion. You go back just a handful of years. Now I see a price tag of $69,000 for this for a glorified Model Y,
Hmm.
and it
Effectively.
doesn't.
I think this technically either a glorified Blazer or
Okay,
Equinox. I
well,
can't
either
remember.
way, $69,000 starting price for that,
Hmm.
and I'm not shocked at the sticker price. And I go,
Hmm.
well, you know what? It's a Cadillac.
Yeah.
So I think the brand has kind of it went through horrible periods of time back in the 80s.
Hmm.
And then it kind of got its groove back a little bit more recently. They've had
Hmm.
the V's
Hmm.
and the CTS V wagon, and they've had some pretty
Hmm.
cool stuff. But nowhere did I think, okay, well, that was really worth it.
Hmm.
And now I'm like, this is a perfect EV brand. This
Hmm.
was like, they've
Hmm.
kept it just long enough. They didn't kill it,
Hmm.
luckily, that it now serves a purpose.
Yeah.
And so now I look at that and I go, $69,000. Well, if it were a Chevy, I'd be like, who's going to pay that much for a Chevy? Even though they're
Yeah.
charging that much for some Chevys.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, it's a good brand. It's
Yeah.
Cadillac.
So, I mean, my general thoughts on this are, I think electrification, I- and I know this is kind of going to be mixing apples and oranges a little bit, but um, when the Spectre came out, the Rolls-Royce EV, a lot of people said electrification suits the brand perfectly because it's smooth, it's powerful, it's silent, all that. So there was a while when I was a little critical of Cadillac because a lot of their V models, also the Escalade, for instance, they had kind of these rumbly, loud exhausts. And, I always thought of Cadillac as being kind of smooth and silent historically. And all of a sudden they wanted to go like full, like AMG M style, in your face, loud performance. And I'm like, I mean, and maybe I'm just an old fart, but um, I said, I don't know if that really fits with the brand. And I know with the V, they were trying to emulate kind of the German concept of, performance luxury. But I actually think this is kind of a return to Cadillac's kind of historic kind of brand, I guess, for lack of
Yeah,
a better
definitely.
term, in terms of smooth, silent, powerful, effortlessly powerful. Um,
But still
so
kind of aggressive looking,
yeah.
still has a performance like this one, the V,
Hmm.
I already forgot the name, the Optiq-V.
Hmm.
That has Brembo big brakes and,
Hmm.
it's sporty. And that
Hmm.
was one of the things that they said at the announcement of this, that it's like a
Hmm.
Canyon Carver and
Hmm.
all this. This is still like a
It's probably still like 6,000
7,000
pounds or
pound
something.
SUV. But they're still trying to
Yeah.
delve into that. But at the
Hmm.
same time, it's quiet.
Hmm.
And what Cadillac kind of started with was
Hmm.
luxury performance.
Hmm.
So I think it's great. I think it's
Yeah.
grown back into
So yeah,
itself.
I
I think
mean,
it's done a
and I
full circle.
and also too, I mean, the lyric sales I think have overperformed, have exceeded expectations. So the lyric is, I think, if not the top selling, it's like the second or third top selling Cadillac model.
I can believe
So
it based on the number I see around in my
so
neighborhood.
I think this will be successful. I agree with you. I think Cadillac's kind of come full circle from being kind of I'm not going to say a nothing brand, but one that really wasn't on most people's radars, that were kind of like, oh, Cadillac, oh, that's an old fart brand.
They'd basically turned into a
Yeah.
trim level of Chevy vehicles.
At some point, yeah.
And now, I mean, maybe they still are, but I don't think they are. They don't come across that way. Before, they definitely came across that way. You looked at the vehicle and, they took the Chevy
Yeah.
Volt and called it what, the ELR or something, and
Oh yeah,
then
God, what an
and tried
embarrassment
to
that
sell
was.
it for like $80,000 or whatever it was at the
Yeah.
time when you could just get the Volt for who knows what,
Yeah, that was
30,000.
definitely not one of Cadillac's finer moments, but yeah,
All they were doing
I
was
think they're
fancy
coming around,
rebrands.
and I think a lot of people that might not have considered them before are starting to look at them again. So
Apparently, a lot of people are looking at GM stuff just in general.
yeah, and
Because
EVs specifically.
so you're telling me, according to my cheat sheet, GM is number 2 in EV sales in the US right now. Now, is that
Evidently, they just barely sneak past Ford, I guess.
is that good?
Well, okay, so relatively speaking, yes. So I guess through May, GM sold 37,000 EVs in the US. Ford sold 34,000, so 3,000 ahead of Ford. Um, and it says, according to this, in the first 2 months of 2025, GM's US EV market share was 15.5%. So that's more than double of the previous year. So, yay, GM. But for context, over the same period, Tesla sold 128,000 vehicles. So,
Yeah.
if you're just talking about EVs, Tesla's still in the lead by a pretty sizable margin, but not in Canada, if that matters.
Well, okay. Doesn't matter.
It,
So in Canada, what they outsold Tesla Q1
yeah, for the quarter, so
for
not
the
even
quarter.
full
Okay.
year, but
Okay.
yeah. So
I mean,
yeah, good for GM. Of
yeah.
course, I mean they're doing it with, I mean if you added them all up, it's probably like 15 or 16 models versus 4 or 5 for Tesla. So, some people would say, yeah, but they needed, gazillion models to, outsell 4 or 5. I mean,
Do
uh,
all of their new vehicles have NACS?
I think starting in 2026.
So
So
they're doing this without NACS. They're doing this with a dongle, which I
yeah,
guess most people won't even know. They'll just say, "Oh yeah, use this," and go and fill up at a supercharger, and people will be like, "Oh, okay," because they won't know any
yeah,
different.
yeah.
They're not
No,
like me,
I
where I'm
think
like a
GM they're going to
adapter
start
snob.
rolling out NACS for 2026 models. So
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 that apparently
presumably the
doesn't matter.
Optiq-V.
I
So
thought that would matter huge. I thought that would matter bigly. And apparently it doesn't matter at all. I thought nobody would buy pre NACS vehicles if NACS was coming the next year. And if what you're saying is
well,
true, then they seem to be doing better.
it's my understanding most new EV vehicle sales come with an adapter, or even if on paper they're $200, my guess is to close the sale,
Yeah, you just
they'll
roll
say
it
you
in.
just throw it
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
So it in most cases it should be kind of a non-issue. Like
Well,
they
it's a
just say, oh,
non-issue other than like I
mhm,
would not want to have to use an adapter.
mhm.
And I assume most people are like me, crazy. So
Well, I don't know. I mean, it kind of, I guess it varies on their level of knowledge about EVs. I mean, real like, EV cognoscenti or like, oh, I want an ACS. My guess is a lot of, especially if they're first time buyers, probably don't even know. They're like a plug's a
that's
plug.
that's what I'm thinking now. And that if they get asked the question, I could even sell myself on using the adapter because of a logic that you used a few episodes ago of if you get a car that's CCS car and it comes with an NACS adapter, you got the best of all worlds.
Hmm.
That you can fill up anywhere. You can charge no matter where you are at that
Yeah.
point. I mean, the same is true if you got an adapter the other way, of
Hmm.
course. But when it comes with the adapter, it's an easy sale, I guess.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm wrong.
Maybe it's turning out to be less of an issue than we thought, but
Yeah, I thought it would be an issue, and
looks
nope,
like it's not.
nope.
But we'll
All right,
see if 2026 models, we'll see.
so let's talk about Tesla.
Uh-oh.
Did Elon or Tesla, because we know Elon's not involved in Tesla anymore. He's trying to get back involved, but I mean, since he left politics, all he's done is X about politics. So he's still not back in the office working
Yeah.
at all like, with Tesla. So he had said during the robotaxi launch that I think during that he'd said at some point along the line he'd said like mid 2025 all these robotaxis
Gonna
are
take over
going to
the world.
be, they're going to be all over Austin. We're going to launch in this thing and it's going to be great. And people were
Yeah,
like
right.
me, that's pretty hard to do that quick.
Yeah.
And I don't remember who said, you said, somebody said that, or that they could just flip a switch and
Hmm.
they could
Activate the fleet.
autonomize this other fleet. And that's now exactly what they've got. Is there's an
Hmm.
article saying that the robotaxi's out there, but it's a Model Y with
Hmm.
robotaxi written on the side.
Yeah.
So, um,
So
is
not the
this
cyber cab.
is this oh yeah, cybercab, not the whatever. Yeah, it says whatever. It says that it's
It
what.
says robotaxi. The script literally says
Oh,
robotaxi,
does it? Okay.
but it's on the
So
Model Y.
is this a win or a lose, or is this just them actually trying to meet a deadline for once?
Well, see, so by the time you're listening to this, this is supposedly the official day where robotaxi goes live.
Oh, the day that this podcast comes out.
Yes,
Okay.
supposedly. So
Yeah.
this is a couple. This is a couple days before, but
But they've already been seen.
they've been seen around Austin. No driver. Just kind of making the rounds, so to spek.
You think they're doing the Knight Rider thing where they just put a guy in the seat and he
Like
looks through
underneath.
the headrest? And how they did it. That was how they did Kit in Knight
Yeah.
Rider.
No, I don't doubt they've done it on like a limited trial basis. So, and this is, I mean, Waymo, Uber, Cruise when they were still in operation, the way they use the usual kind of use case or model for autonomous ride hailing services or whatever is they take a small geographic area and they drive it thousands and thousands and thousands of times to very closely map a certain area to basically load that data into their system to the point where the car is so familiar with it, it can basically operate autonomously.
The cars definitely don't find themselves in a parking lot
Honking
honking
at
at
each
each
other.
other, as we discussed last week.
Anyway,
That definitely doesn't
oh,
happen.
never happens. Yeah. So it's not unfeasible or unusual that they could have mapped the Austin area enough where they could enable, you know, relatively reliable and safe autonomous operation. Now, doing that on a national scale, non-geofence, that's a whole other discussion. But it looks like maybe for once they're actually meeting a deadline potentially.
That's the shocking part to me on this. Now they're skirting around it. This is not the Robovan. This is not
The
the
cyber cab.
Cybercab. This
Yeah.
is not what they showed. This
Mhm.
is a kludge of that. But I
Somewhat.
give
Yeah.
them credit for it,
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
because
if
we
they
also
if
don't know
they
what's under
scale
the
it, I mean,
skin.
it's one thing to have one or two vehicles driving around.
Yes.
I think I can't remember if they claimed hundreds or
Oh, they probably
if it's
claimed 20
Austin,
million.
it's well, no. But I
But
mean, I don't
no,
know. The Austin area. I mean, maybe I think initially maybe they'll have like a dozen or maybe at most like 100. They're not going to have thousands of them. So,
yeah.
um,
No,
but
I
if
think
they,
it's a win if they do this. I think it's a roundabout way of doing what they promised, but I think it still counts.
well, I mean, honestly, I mean, we could, like I said, I could go into the rabbit hole about this. I actually think the Model Y makes more sense as a ride-hailing vehicle than the Cybercab. Honestly,
Hmm.
and you talked about this, having a family. A two-seater is kind of useless,
Yeah, it's
even though
completely useless.
statistically the majority of ride-hailing rides are just one or two passengers. So on paper, a two-seater makes sense, but if you have a larger party, it doesn't. So
Yeah,
anyway,
I think you got to at least be able to take three or four people.
yeah.
I
So
think that's
anyway,
a
I mean, for once, I mean, mind blown. Tesla is meeting a deadline. It looks like potentially. So we'll report back next week and see if that's true.
Tell me about BYD. How have they
So
made the news?
they're the darling of automotive analysts and influencers, I guess. They're going to take over the world. They're going to eat Tesla's lunch,
They
so on and so
are the
forth.
Chinese EV maker that also makes hybrids that, depending on what number you look at, they are
And
either
COVID masks too. Do you remember that?
yes, yes. Depending on the numbers, they outsell or don't outsell Tesla, depending on whether sometimes they beat them on straight EVs. Most of the time they beat them on combined hybrid plug-in
Yeah,
and
EVs. Yeah,
whatever. But they're a Chinese company, the big they got some pretty cool stuff.
yeah, but they don't take too well to criticism, evidently. Um, so I guess some Chinese influencers said some not so nice things about BYD, at least in the eyes of BYD. And they're taking 37 of them to court. And they also have a watch list of an additional 126 content creators.
Fascinating.
Yeah, imagine that.
So I would just like to go on record and say I love BYD.
Having never driven one.
Having never driven one or had any interaction with them, I think BYD is a fantastic company that definitely does not need to put us on a watch list. They're run great. They're definitely, they outsell Tesla. I'll believe any numbers they give me. What a
Especially if they
wonderful
sponsor the
company.
show.
Yeah. Even more so if they sponsor the show, thewalker.com/advertise. Then yeah, I've got nothing bad to say about them. How about you?
Um, I
Tongue in
just
cheek, in case you can't
yeah.
cut it.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's another example of kind of the cultural difference between East and West. So I don't know if you remember, gosh, I couldn't tell you the episode off the top of my head. VinFast kind of did a similar thing a while ago. And I don't even think it was with their newest EVs, but with their previous generation, it was like a reskinned BMW X5 with a LS
Yeah, I think you're right. Yep.
V8 engine. Anyway, some guy made some social media posts and said basically it was a kind of a piece of crap. And I guess I don't know if they arrested him or something, but they like came after him really hard in Vietnam and basically it kind of had a chilling effect on anyone saying anything negative about them. And even when they started their launch in the U.S. market, I guess they flew a bunch of automotive journalists to Vietnam to drive their new models and so forth. And a lot of them were reporting that they were being followed, like even like off site, like around town. They said, "Oh, go ahead and drive the cars around and enjoy your stay." But the whole time had
Wow.
watchers following them.
Fascinating.
Yeah, so I think when you come from kind of an authoritarian culture, it's not considered unusual, but I guess in Western eyes, it's considered a little weird and creepy. But
Yeah, the automotive journalism, quote unquote journalism in this country
hmm
is not traditional journalism. It is automotive journalism. It is
hmm
not journalism.
hmm
And so uh, there's a lot of criticism for, oh, well, they lend you the car. They'll give you a car for a week.
wine and
They'll,
dine you
yeah,
and
wine and
da, da,
fly
da.
you off to places. Well, yeah, because I can't afford to go and spend $100,000 every week on vehicles.
Yeah,
And it's not possible to do it with this industry. So you end up
hmm
getting a lot of, well,
kind of a
are
quid
you,
pro quo. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, but generally speaking, the auto manufacturers do not tell you what to say.
hmm
I have been on long leads before and I have come away and blasted them.
hmm
And I think most
You might
people,
not be invited back,
now
but
there's the rub, isn't it? Is that you've got to go. I heard years ago, somebody told me that you go on, when you get invited to these long leads, these press events,
hmm
whatever,
hmm
deal with it like, still be polite, but
hmm
deal with it like you're never going to get invited back. Just tell
hmm
the truth.
hmm
And then you're going to be about as honest as you're going to be. And that's how I've
hmm
treated it. And
hmm
I think there's only really one company that I've ever had an experience where I went on one, was
hmm
honest, and did not get invited to another event, period.
Yeah.
So luckily nobody told the people in the media car department. So I still got street vehicles, but
hmm
I no longer got invited to the new car things. But I still, you told the truth.
Yeah.
In their culture, it is very different,
hmm
apparently.
Yeah.
So it's just another expectation, a different place, whatever. So say what you will about an American
hmm
automotive journalist and you're getting wine and dine. I think generally speaking, everybody in America tells the truth about the vehicle.
Well, I mean, their version of it. I mean,
Yeah, no,
I've
it's all
seen
their version of
reviews
it.
of the same vehicle, the same event, and vastly different takes on it. Some people saying this car's great, other people saying it's a steaming turd. Usually not that extreme. Usually it'll be kind of damning with faint praise, like, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know.
And you've
So
got niche reviews now, though. The
yeah,
beauty of the internet, generally, it used to be like before it was like magazines controlled everything. And so it was
yeah.
magazines and newspapers. And now you've got very niche reviews. And
Hmm.
it's like I know somebody that does reviews from a mom's perspective.
Hmm.
And so every vehicle, her husband reviews it as a car guy enthusiast. She
Hmm.
reviews the same
As a
vehicles
mom, yeah.
as a mom.
Hmm.
And before it was like as pregnant, a
Hmm.
lady who was pregnant, and then now is having the child and
Hmm.
everything. So now
Hmm.
you're getting all these different niche reviews. So he may review something and say, "What a
Hmm.
horrible piece of crap this is," and she may review it and say, "This is a
This is
wonderful
great.
car,"
Yeah, yeah,
because it fits these different things. Now with the internet, it's like all these different
yeah.
reviews.
I think the big test is going to be is when these brands start coming to the US and they're going to have this whole gamut of mixed reviews, some very complimentary, some very critical, is how to
I
deal
think
with it.
VinFast didn't know how to deal with it when they came to America, and all of a sudden they just got blasted
Yeah.
with all this bad press.
Hmm.
I don't think I bet that they were like,
They were, I'm
what?
sure they were caught off guard. Now, however, having said that, my understanding is they did take some of the criticism to heart. I have heard the later versions of like the VF8, they have revised the suspension based on feedback. Um, I think we might even know their PR guy if he's still there. Maybe we should reach out. Anyway, so I think they're starting to understand the American automotive culture a little better, and they're like, okay, we're not going to be this coddled, special child like we were in Vietnam. We're just another car maker, and some people are going to say not so nice things, but we just kind of need to learn to roll with the punches, realize not every review is going to be 5 stars, and just that's just kind of how it goes. So anyway, we'll see how this goes. There are no like specific Chinese brands unless you consider Polestar, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know. But
Polestar, Lotus. I mean, they're
yeah,
kind of limited to.
but there will. I mean, I think it's a matter of when, not if, the Chinese are coming. But
Mhm.
they're not officially here yet.
And
But
BYD's
anyway,
cars look great. If I told you how wonderful that company is,
they're not bad.
BMW,
Yes,
they're doing X5, X6 versions, I guess,
EV. Yeah, they're EV
EVs,
versions. Yeah,
and X7. I'm so out of touch with BMW.
they're
The
calling
X
it
thing, the thing.
iX5 unless they've decided they're going to change their. Wasn't I think it was Mercedes that said we're not going to call it EQ anymore. We're just going to call it whatever.
Yeah, no, it was Volkswagen, wasn't it? They're stopping
Was
with
it? Oh,
the
I don't know.
yeah, the whatever it
No,
is.
it's Volkswagen, but I think Mercedes said the same thing.
Yeah, they
I
all
guess
need to
BMW hasn't gotten the memo yet.
they all need to stop doing this. It was like when iPods came out and everything was i something or other. It's like you
Yeah.
can tell what era things are from. Like I there's all these phone fix companies that are like the you break I fix. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, I can tell like when this company was generally formed because that was when iPods and everything when everything was an I before everything, and now that's doesn't seem to
Yeah.
be as much of a trend. This is a similar thing with the you can identify it's an EV by the I. So they're going to start building these in South Carolina. Do you think this is tariff born? I mean, they've kind of
So, okay, so the
always,
interesting thing is their SUVs for going back like probably about 20 years have been made in South Carolina.
yeah, this isn't new.
Since
They made
since
like
its
the M's
inception, yeah, the
and
X5 has always been made in South Carolina since it came out, which was, I mean, gosh, like 2008 or something or
I'm not
six.
that old.
I
I
don't
don't
even
know.
know, but
I'm either not that old or I'm so old I don't I forgot already.
no. So this isn't a huge. I mean, I don't know what the original plan was to build them in either Germany or Hungary or Mexico or wherever, but this isn't that big of a strategic shift, I don't think, because like I said, the Spartanburg plant is actually BMW's largest plant globally. It's bigger than any plant they have in Germany. And it has been their top source for SUV models since its inception. So to say, oh, we're going to build our future electric EVs in the US, it's like, woo, you know?
I am going to make this statement with zero research whatsoever.
Yeah.
America's got to be. the number one consumer of these larger SUVs?
I mean, possibly close second with China.
I thought
Um,
they were more into
or
sedans, like the crazy big sedans. But regardless, like
yeah,
it makes
it's
a
one
lot
of
of
the top
sense.
markets for
Yeah,
sure.
it
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense to build them here, and
Hmm.
it makes a lot of sense if love him or hate him with Trump with all of his big beautiful tariffs.
Hmm.
What it's one of the things it's done is created this uncertainty for
Hmm.
manufacturers. And the
Hmm.
one thing they want in life
It's
is
certainty.
certainty.
Yeah.
They don't care. They have no allegiance to a
Hmm.
country, to a region, to anything. They want absolute certainty. So when they start a $1 billion project, they
Hmm.
know in 8 years' time, this is the payoff. This is where
Hmm.
it leads
Hmm.
us. And this is how you direct the
Yeah.
company because nothing is quick, nothing is cheap, nothing is easy.
Hmm.
So
And they want to
here,
make the best margin on it.
yes. So
Well,
here, I kind of wonder if they've looked at the big, beautiful tariffs and said, he's a lame duck. He's out in 3.5 years. We may or may not have a Republican as the next president. We may or
yeah.
may not have a Democrat.
I,
We
I
may get an
don't
independent after all of this mess. Who even
in
knows?
the
But if they
I would
build here, you're safe.
well, I would say in the specific context of the German automakers, the US, regardless of big beautiful bill or tariffs or anything, is a desirable manufacturing uh, locale because Germany's labor costs are some of the highest in the world. So um, I think the US labor costs are literally probably about half what they are in Germany. So
Don't
it
tell them
is
about Mexico.
so it's in well, BMW does have a plant in Mexico anyway, but um, so it's in their interest to build in the US rather than Germany from a labor cost perspective. Um, and notwithstanding, it's one of their biggest markets anyway. So
Yeah.
especially for the SUVs. So again, I mean, they may be saying, "Oh, we love America. We're supporting America." They probably planned this before Trump's second term.
Yeah.
Um,
So this isn't real news. It's
yeah,
fake news.
fake news, very fake.
All right. This next news item, I didn't put under fake news. I put under do I care news. This was second gen Rivian R1T quad motor leak with NACS port.
Woo.
Didn't we know all of this?
Yes. So this is like just photos, basically.
Of a hole on a
Or
car.
and also the little quad logo. So it's block
Wow.
letters QUAD.
So
So
this is the quad finally being made. No, they made the quad.
the
The
original
first, yes.
the original one was quad, but it used Bosch motors. These are the Rivian in-house motors they developed.
Oh.
So this is more powerful, more whiz bang, whoop de doo. Um, I mean, I think this is
Well, that's the
I
big
want to
news
say
to
like
me.
1200 horsepower. It's crazy
If they're
powerful and
shifting,
fast,
this
but
is their motors, and they're now making the big mama jama. That's not the right word.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, no, it's
one out
like
of their own. Like that seems
yes.
like bigger
No, this
news
is pretty
than
significant. So,
yeah.
yeah, the first generation R1T and R1S were quad motor, but they were Bosch motors. And then I think the initial R1Ss and R1Ts with the Rivian developed motors were dual. And then they had tri-motor, and now they have the quad motor. So, yeah, for what
Hooray!
it's worth.
I
Yay.
keep there's a few Rivians now that drop their kids. Well, the Rivians don't drop their kids off at my school, but the drivers of the Rivians drop their kids off. They look nicer and nicer and nicer. The more I
Yeah.
look at them, the more time I spend around them. They are the R1S is like
Yeah. Yeah.
that. That
I've
would
I've already
be
gone on record. I want my next car to be an R3, R3X if I can swing it. But I
so. There's
I
there's
want
a
that to
house.
happen.
There's a house that just got redone over by my kids' elementary
Yeah.
school, and they just revamped everything, and then they got an R1S, and it
Hmm.
looks so nice in front of there.
Yeah.
And they pulled out and drove that away. And behind the R1S, they just picked up their Lucid Air.
Oh,
So
so
they're
I
not
guess
doing
they're
so
all in
bad.
on EVs. And
Yeah, I
yeah, they're
guess
not
so.
doing too bad if they can
And
afford
they
those
just
cars.
painted their house, redid the whole
I
yard,
don't know.
and then got the
You should
R1S
find
and
out
now
where that
picked
guy
up the
works.
Lucid.
See
Yeah, I
if he has any
know.
openings.
I just need to follow behind him as the
Uh,
money falls out of his pockets. I just pick up the change. Uh, okay, so
I bet he has a swimming pool in the backyard full of $100 bills
and
and just
just
like
like
dives in and
yeah,
like
just Scrooge McDucks it and
yes, Exactly.
Last item, and then I got to get out of here. We've got now. You put this article. This was Stellantis design chief says they're going to
Ralph
experiment
Shields, yeah.
they're going to experiment with Chrysler. And I just read an article with Chrysler's CEO where she said, "Oh, I just talked to the new Stellantis big boss, and he's all in on Chrysler, even though Chrysler's only got one vehicle to speak of." So what's going on with Chrysler?
I don't know.
Because Chrysler, back to earlier with GM, where I would have axed Cadillac
Hmm.
2 decades ago. Chrysler, if I were on the Stellantis board, Chrysler would have got axed when they turned it into Stellantis. Chrysler would have been the first thing out the door.
Yeah.
And here now, it's the CEO of Chrysler saying that the new head of Stellantis is all in on Chrysler. And now the design chief saying that they're going to experiment, which experiment means you're on the cutting board. You prove it or lose it at this point. Yeah. But they're not just sweeping it up. I would shudder.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised Chrysler, the brand, has lasted as long as they have.
At this point, I would take the Pacifica, make it a Dodge or whatever, and Chrysler would just be quietly gone overnight. That's what I would have done.
Yeah.
And instead, they're like, okay, well, at least play one more hand.
Yeah. So
is this their Cadillac?
Well, I mean, in the show notes I put, is this Chrysler's Jaguar moment?
No, another. Well, I think they prefer it to be their Cadillac moment than their moment.
We'll see. I mean, talk about a brand that has to kind of build up from nothing. I would say Chrysler is it, because for the last, I would say probably at least the last 5 years, they've been known for a minivan. That's about it.
The best minivan, the Cadillac of minivans.
Yeah, Pacifica is a very nice minivan. Now, the 300C only officially went out of production, I want to say in like 23 or 24. It's fairly recent.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But again, not, its heyday was, I would say, early, mid 2000s, early 2010s.
Yep.
Like the 300 was like, even though it's a sedan and not an SUV, I would say it was kind of like Chrysler's Escalade in terms of just really making a splash on the scene and really striking a chord with pop culture. You'd see it in rap videos. You'd see guys putting like 22-inch wheels on it.
I think you could fit like 24s from the factory. Well, not from the factory, but I don't think you had to modify it to put 24. It was like the first vehicle that could do this.
Yeah.
It was great.
So anyway, it really struck a chord with a certain group. And for a while, it definitely had its 15 minutes of fame. It was a radical departure from its predecessor.
You're saying for several years it had its 15 minutes of fame.
Well, yeah, basically. So for a while, the 300C was like a big deal. You know, it was had a lot of presence, kind of like I said, kind of in your face styling. And it initially had a lot of sales, and then it just kind of slowly faded off when the novelty kind of wore off. So it's interesting. Ralph Gilles said he even cited the 2006 300C SRT8 as one of his modern favorites, like that he thinks kind of encapsulates kind of the essence of the modern Chrysler brand, or what he would like it to be, kind of metaphorically, I guess, for having. The quote this article says value for money, prestige for money, presence for money. So basically, something that I guess looks more expensive than it is. And a lot of people compared the original 300C to like Bentleys. You know, it had a very upright kind of, in your face grill. I even remember a lot of them had like aftermarket Bentley looking grills and stuff. So I think they're probably going to try to hit it out of the park styling wise with something that's really turns heads, like, whoa, what is that? You know? So yeah, but to your point, I think this is it. It's like, my guess is in closed door meetings, the new CEO said, okay, one last chance. Will you blow this? That's it.
Yeah. In that article, I'll try to find it and put it in the show notes. Links to everything in the show notes. I'll try to find the article I read, but I didn't put it in, so who knows if I can find it. But the in there they'd said, and it sounded familiar, that they were going to go all electric with Chrysler. That was its future. And in the article they said, That's off the table now.
Yeah.
Now we're going to do internal combustion as well. Probably,
Hmm.
I would guess plug-in,
Yeah. Range
maybe hybrids
extender.
as well.
Yeah.
But that they're no longer an EV only brand, which is what they were
Hmm.
saying
Hmm.
before, which kind of opens up the door to other things. So it will be interesting to see if that EV thing that looked like a refrigerator that they it was like a white SUV that they
Yeah.
unveiled, and it looked truly like a refrigerator driving down the road. It was not peak styling. Interestingly enough,
Yeah.
you likened the new Model Y to that, and I don't think it's that far off. And I like
Yeah.
the new Model Y,
Yeah.
but it was very similar styling
Yeah.
of those two. So do they? We'll wrap this up with the question: 5 years from now, do
Will
people
Chrysler
say,
be around?
yeah? Do people say Chrysler who, or is it still breathe? I won't say successful. Is it still breathing?
I think that's the window they have is 5 years. And if they're not cutting it by 5 years, I honestly think
Well, in
I
five
think
years,
they'll
they
be
should
gone.
have a vehicle on the road, a
Yeah.
couple vehicles maybe, and we'll know the answer. But do those vehicles succeed?
Yeah. I think that's the question.
Well, what's the answer? Will
Stay
time
tuned.
will tell. Stay tuned. All of these answers. I I'll come up with an answer. I think it's dead.
Guess we'll see.
I would like. Man, I tried to get you to give an answer. I even gave an answer just arbitrarily. I have no idea what I believe. Everything we talked about, show notes will have links to that. It also in the YouTube, youtube.com/@the Walk Car. You scroll down, there'll be links there as well. Find us on all the social medias, not just YouTube. I don't even know what social medias we're on. I don't even care if you like us and whatever that you're supposed to
Or you
do on
find us a
there.
chore.
Yes, a chore somebody did last week. Just share out the podcast. Hey, I just gave this a listen, and what do these yahoos know? Anybody can have a podcast. Uh, and then tweet that or whatever it is that you do now. We have merchandise, walkout.com/store. I'm still, man, I'm lazy. I haven't looked up
If you
whether
buy
that's,
stuff, we'll lose money, but
if you
that
buy
remains to be
stuff, we lose money. So run us out of business and buy stuff. And then who did I say? BYD. We love your vehicles. You are the best company around. Come and advertise. Walkout.com slash
we will say nice things
advertise.
about you.
Yes, well, all good things to our Chinese car maker overlords. I'll
All
talk to
right.
you next week.
Yep.